Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Abruzzi ANZCAR Cup here at Talladega, the home of speedways, one of the fastest speedways there is on the Cup calendar. And joining me tonight is Mr. JP. How are you going, JP?
Carl, I'm doing really well, thanks. Good evening, viewers, and welcome to the ANZCAR Abruzzi Cup. We're in round 5 for the chase for the Abruzzi Cup. So tell us how things have been going so far, Carl.
Well, the Cup it's been a little bit up and down for a few drivers. I'm just going to run through the order as it stands. So up in first place at the moment in the Cup is Jason Martin. He's got a lead of 20 points over Edward Foster, who took out last weekend's race. Behind him is Josh Micklemore, who had a bit of a disaster last weekend, along with Hamish Gallagher, who is on 35 points behind the leader. 32 points behind is Josh Micklemore. 40 points behind is Michael Skurlock in 5th place, with 6th place Jason Hartigan, 46 points behind. 52 points behind is Danny G. In 8th place, we've got Stephen Williams, 75 points down. Behind him is Norman Clark, who's 78 points down. Behind him is Bradley Allison, who's 80 points down. And in the last spot for the chase, number 11, which is odd for a chase round, as there's usually only 10 in the field, but we did have a tie for 10th place this season, is Matt Hunter, who is 98 points behind at the moment. So really, it is going to be a bit of a tricky one tonight. Talladega is one of those tracks where drivers either love it or hate it, and most drivers, in all honesty, hate it a bit because it is a bit of a luck race. You can get very unlucky on these super speedways. If there's a big crash, and there usually is, if you get involved in it, it can be your race over. So you've got to keep that in mind if you're in the chase.
Yeah, and it looks like so far Edward Foster is still coming off that win from last week. He's the fastest man on track so far for qualifying, although I can see a few purple sectors coming up here and there. It's going to be interesting. He's just been pipped by Mick Wilson, and Aidan Schultz now has just gone to the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, the qualifying here can be one of the trickiest things. The second lap is going to be the fast one, so this is going to be the one that counts for Edward Foster. We'll see how he goes on this one. This should jump him up above the rest of the drivers, I'd say. Once we get there, it is a big, long lap here at Talladega, of course. We are at 2.6 mile speedway, so it's a big, long speedway, but we are doing ridiculous speeds of up to the sort of 200 miles per hour, 300 kilometer plus range of speed. These are very fast times that are going to come in. So we should see Foster jump up quite high once he comes across the line, which he does just behind Jason Martin there. So this is the lap that counts for everybody. It's always that second lap that counts.
Yeah, we saw Foster with a purple sector there and just missing out and getting a green sector for his for that last part of the lap.
Yeah, Sector 1 was good. Sector 2 was down by 2 millionths of a second. Nothing in it. Absolutely nothing in these times as well. There is very little in these times. If we look down the field, Foster and Bradley Allison have set the exact same time at the moment. And you're going to see that there are going to be guys that are setting similar times all the same time. There is not much between any of these drivers tonight.
So we can call it the old 1/16th of an inch, and we're seeing Nick Hausler on a purple sector here, so he should come out and do fairly well.
Yeah, one of the newer drivers to the series, and one of the newer drivers to the Cup. Actually, I'm thinking this is one of his first or second races.
Yeah, I haven't seen Nick before, so I'm going to say it's probably his first race.
Second race.
Second race, there you go.
Yes. So, yeah, just having a look through my boards. But, yeah, he is quick there tonight and set a brilliant lap there. It's one of those things on these super speedways, though, where you can, if you get the cloud at the right moment, you can gain a tenth. Well, not even a tenth, a millionth of a second. And if you gain that, it can work out quite well for you. But it's, of course, gaining that time. And that's the hard bit because getting that time is the tricky part of this lap. One little mistake, a slight bit of overturn, having to lift off just a tiny bit, and that's it. That is your lap lost.
Absolutely, and you saw there Nick's lap was 4/100ths of a second faster than Jason. So, like you said, there's absolutely nothing in it at all.
Yeah, Nick, the only person to break into the 50-second mark by, well, nothing at all. It's a 50.999. That is very, very close. I don't think you can get much closer than that. But that was a brilliant lap by Nick Holzlander. Absolutely brilliant. Pipping Jason Martin to the pole there. So, let us go through the field as they start gridding up. So on pole position, as we said, Nick Holzlander. Next to him is Jason Martin. On the second row of the grid, we have Edward Foster and Bradley Allison. Third row is Jason Hartigan with Stephen Williams. Fourth row is Danny G and Joshua Carroll Walden. Fifth row is Phil Otto and Hamish Gallagher. Sixth is Michael Skurlock and Lachlan Urquio. Seventh row is Aidan Schultz and Raymond Yeager. Eighth is Josh Mickelmore with Norman Clark. Ninth is Adam Rosell with Mirko Dortnack. 10th is Mick Wilson and Roger Clark. 11th is Matt Knight with James Robbie. 12th is Mitch Campbell and Ashley Davis. 13th, Tristan Koch, Matt Hunter. 14th, Michael Schroeder, Riley Curtis. And on the back row of the grid, we have Michael Shaw and Bill Hickey. Riley Curtis coming off a brilliant victory in the trucks on Monday night, and Matt Hunter actually coming off a great victory last night in the bit of the Open Cup, getting his first ANZCAR win as well. So good for him on Matt Hunter. Very well done for him, and that's going to nail him a place in the All-Star race come the end of the season.
Yeah, fantastic work by those guys. We're just about getting ready to get started under the pace car, and there you go. The pace car is moving, and everyone's starting to move off now. So one lap behind the pace car, and then they're off and running, Carl?
Yeah, we'll be one lap behind the pace car tonight. It's a big long lap here tonight on this out lap. As I say, this is 2.5 mile oval almost, and it is a long way to go behind a pace car.
Yeah,
when you're limited to to that slower speed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that we're not been used to in a while with these 30-second and 25-second laps. This is a very, very long lap, but from what we were talking about earlier on this evening, Carl, it's not really going to be a matter of tyres with this race. It's going to be more fuel usage. Yeah,
that's it. This is going to be a fuel-sensitive race. It's all about saving that fuel, keeping your car in the pack formation, keeping behind the driver in front of you, and saving that fuel as much as you can as well. So people are going to want to try and go long, see if they can catch a lucky caution if they can. Of course, the biggest thing you've got to look out for here is the big one. And the big one is generally going to happen on a super speedway. You've just got to hope that it doesn't happen at the front of the field, because you can lose a lot of drivers very quickly with that one.
Now, this is a bit of an interesting tactic. Well, I don't know if it's a tactic. We saw Michael Skurlock, I think, was dropped right down to the infield area there as they were coming through the corner.
I imagine he was fiddling with a setting with that one. Usually what happens in that sort of circumstance, you're not going to gain anything in that respect. Maybe he was just having a quick look at the front of the field, getting a bit of a clue where things are. Pace car is going to come in. Now, it's a long way to the actual start-finish line here, so we're going to be getting ready for green, and it will be green relatively soon. We will just wait for that one to come. It takes a while. The start-finish line is a lot further away than you think on this one. It's towards the back of the front straight with this track. But you can see they're all getting ready to go. Holzlander is getting ready to drop it. Green is away, and away we go for the Talladega round of the Abruzzi ANZCAR Cup here on JP Simshed Broadcasting. Holzlander's got a good start there. Foster's just going to sit in behind him. You're probably not going to see too many moves early on. People are just going to try and get into their sort of positions and try and sort of... It's like a game of chess at, 200 to 300 kilometers per hour.
And it's just really deciding which line that they want to take, whether they're going to be sitting on the low line or the high line, which one's going to be the better line at the moment. And you can see here that the JP Simshed cars are almost all together on the low line there. The only car that's separating those three is Danny G.
Yeah, Danny G is going to have to play a crucial role there, keeping the Simshed boys apart. The problem for the Mitch Motorsport team is they did qualify a little bit out of position, and that can affect them tonight. Teammates are your friends here. They are the ones that can make a big difference. We saw at Daytona earlier on in the year, with cars giving them a push from behind, bit of bump drafting. It makes a big difference. You did see as well, Hulslander just dropping back. He's dropped back into the lower end of the field, mid-pack sort of thing. And I think that was a strategic move. He just didn't want to get into a position where he was fighting too hard, just because he's not had too many races this season. So he's dropped back, but that's also a smart thing to do because you can start saving fuel. So obviously not wanting to lead the actual race there, but getting that pole position is going to make him very happy, I'm sure.
Yeah, look, I mean, this is it's still a long race. It's a 90-lap race. It's all about the fuel, really, and you can see these guys, just like you said, they're just setting themselves up. They're just starting to fall into a rhythm now, and that's how they're going to keep things going. I'm looking at this, and I don't know whether it's a good thing being out in front, or if it's a bad thing being out in front. If you'd want to be the car behind the leader and save a little bit of fuel here.
It all depends when a caution comes. If a caution comes early, you want to be in the lead. But if the race is running green, you generally want to be third, fourth in the line of cars. But you do run the risk then of it. If somebody makes a mistake, you're likely going to get punished for it. And you can see the cars, they are moving around a bit. The other problem with this, of course, is the car gets very, very hot. When you're running this close to another car, you've got to move out from behind them. You've got to get that fresh air on the radiator to cool that engine down. Because if you don't, the engine will go hot. And we've seen that happen a number of times. It's so easy to do, overheat these engines, and all of a sudden, your engine just loses all power, drops out from you, and you're out of the race. It can happen so quickly.
Yeah, you can see the guys as they get a chance, they try to move to the side a little bit and get a little bit of that cleaner air into their engines.
Yeah, get that clean air in there, get a little bit of side drafting as well. You do get some effect of the side draft there. As well, so you don't lose too much speed. But you can see the speed difference is around about 30 kilometers per hour difference from what they were doing in qualifying to what they're doing in the race, and that's purely because of the draft. Because they're punching that big hole through the air, they're not getting as much drag coming off the back of the car because they've got somebody sitting right behind them. It makes a big difference, and it really helps the bottom line. Just getting a little bit squirrely there, and that's given Jason Martin a chance to get a leap ahead. He has got Ravi Allison behind him, giving him a nice push. Just behind him is Stephen Williams. So they're going to drop down. So nicely done there from Allison and Martin, just dropping down in front of Foster and cutting off that JP Simshed train, just making it so they can't get in front of this race. Now, Bradley Allison's looking at possibly making a bit of a run. He's going to side up. Now it's going to be a bit too late. And he's going to have to fall back, and just heard over his radio that he was overheating then. So he was running that risk of blowing that engine. The car was pretty much ready to go there, and that's how quick it can happen. Literally, if you're behind a car that close, you're bump drafting for about half a lap to a lap, you can overheat the engine and you can do some really big damage.
So really, is that governed by the amount of tape that they put on the front of the car, Carl, or is that just a universal issue no matter how much tape they have on or off the car?
Well, you're generally going to want to run as much tape as you can. Being a fixed series, you don't sort of have the option to tape up too much with that. You want to make these cars as slippery through the air as you possibly can. So the less drag you have, the more aerodynamics you have, the better for you. But of course, the tape does make a big difference. And I think we just saw... we're trying to work out who that is.
Looks like Matt J. Knight has sort of fallen back a few places, and he's still dropping back a little bit more. I don't know what happened there.
Yes,
He seems to be slowing right down.
He did go up into the wall, I believe. I'm trying to find him on my screen. Yeah, he went up into the wall there. Jay Knight actually went up into the wall. He ran up into the wall, and that's given him a little bit of damage on the front of his car. Just got him out the draft, and you can just see how quickly he's dropping back now. Obviously, when you got damage on the car too, that makes things a lot worse. They were trying to actually run a third line. Him and Josh Micklemore. Josh Micklemore's eager to try and get ahead at the moment. You can just see him a little bit further down the pack at the moment in 11th place, just behind Raymond Yeager. And he's trying to get a third line going so he can actually start pushing along. But he needs to get some friends up there to help that out. Of course, you can run 3 wide here at Talladega. It is very much possible. But you need people to support you, because otherwise you're going to start having trouble.
Yeah, it seems like this is one of these tracks which is going to be the play it sort of cool for most of the race and then really start to turn the pressure on with maybe a dozen or so laps to go.
Yeah, you don't want to go too early in this race. Any bit of damage is going to really affect you as this race goes on. You're going to want to try and make it as long as possible before you really have any mistakes as well. You're going to want to try and get the car as long into this race as well as possible. So if it's going to remain green like it's looking at it at the moment, because everybody is pretty much behaving, we're starting to get some 3-4 wide down the pack a bit with Aiden Schultz and Nick Holzlander. He's going up the top at the moment, but he's not really getting much support from anybody else. So while those guys are having a little bit of a battle, that's when a little mistake can happen when you're going 3 wide, and sometimes you get 4 wide as well. If that mistake happens, then you start to have problems, and then things really go wrong. But the leaders will get that caution flag pit stop, which really helps them. But if it remains green, these guys are going to want to try and stay out as long as possible, just so they can fill the car up for a longer stint at the end. And obviously the undercut's not going to be a big advantage because you fall out of the draft. And you see now Bradley Allison getting a good push from Stephen Williams. And this might be Allison's chance to get down in front of Martin. He needs to get Williams a little bit closer than that to get the help. But the bottom line's starting to break off again. Up top, if we look back a little bit, you can see right now that that Josh Micklemore is getting a hand from Holzlander, and they are bump drafting as hard as they can. Holzlander is right on his tail. He's going to watch out. He's just got to watch out that he doesn't overheat the car. That's the big problem he could have right now. He is running so close to the back of Micklemore, but you can see the speed they've got up there. They are starting to get a little bit of momentum behind them, and this could be Micklemore's chance to actually get up to the front. Just passing Hamish Gallagher now, and looks like Stephen Williams, I think, has just come up to that top line. He's seen what was happening, jumped up there, given the opportunity, and got onto that third row. So they're going to be running up high, trying to get back down into that second lane if they can.
Yeah, and this is the whole strategy part of it unfolding now that they're starting to run 3 wide, which we haven't seen up until now, and it's a pretty cool thing to see there, Carl.
There
was just a little bit of a touch on, I think that was Riley Curtis's car.
Aiden Schultz and Danny G there with that one. Very similar liveries for Riley Curtis and Aiden with the A1 Sim Sports cars, which makes it nice and easy to spot between them. But Riley's a bit further down with Michael Schroeder. Those guys are running a little bit further back. So yeah, Aiden just very nearly got a big one there.
Yeah, it was great to see Aiden being able to sort of get away with that one and to keep everything running.
Yeah, he did a brilliant save there, and he actually managed to get ahead of Danny G as well. So good job there. The problem when something like that happens is drivers can check up. You can sometimes have drivers just slam on the brake because they think they're going to see an accident in front of them. The accident doesn't happen, but then you get a car into the backside of your car and everything goes wrong. You can see now Foster's trying to make a move. He's got Jason Hartigan behind him, and they are going to try and get the draft now. Foster has got a couple of miles per hour over Jason Martin right now. He's running at 200 miles per hour exactly right now, and that's going to give him the opportunity to get in front of Jason Martin, Hardigan tries to get in, but he doesn't make it. Jason Martin just blocks out the teammate there, and that's going to cost Foster a little bit, not having his teammate behind him. Jason Martin just managed to get that car in the right spot at the right time.
And yeah, up until now, Hardigan was just on his own, but now he's got some backup from Norman Clark that seems to have come out of nowhere.
And Bradley Allison almost got in there. There was very, very slight contact between Allison and Urquio there. Really, that was almost a huge crash mid-pack there. Oh, got to settle down a bit after that one. That was very risky. We had a few different runners up there. Josh Micklemore was starting to run up there, and it looked like Bradley Allison got squeezed a little bit. Lachlan Urquio just lost the car a little bit from the front end, and that's one of the issues you can have when you're running in these packs as well, because when you do get a car coming in front of you all of a sudden, when the aero balance changes, all of a sudden the front of the car feels different. Everything starts to feel different, and you can run up the line. Things can go wrong, and it's very easy to get loose.
Yeah, we can see these guys now running nose to tail. Lachlan's getting close to the back of JCW, so teammate on teammate here. So we can see it up and down the field, and yeah, look, Jason Hardigan just seems to be stuck there now. He's going to have to sit there for a while. I'm sure he wants to get right behind Ed Foster, but he's not going to be able to just yet.
Yeah, they desperately want to try and get some work going on together. And of course, they also want to try and get some gap between himself and Jason Martin, because this is for the chase, of course, and these guys are racing for it. If they can get Jason Martin behind a few of their team cars in this race, it's only going to help Foster, who is the highest driver in the standings for the JP Simshed team. So this is where teammates can come in very handy, and team players are very useful in situations like this, because you've really got to work hard together, and it is really hard work. When you're running this close with each other, when you're running this hard, it's not easy. You look at all these cars in a line right now and you think, oh, I could do that. That doesn't look very hard. Believe me, it's a lot harder than you think. When you've got a car to the left and right of you, when you're running side by side and you're having to check temperature constantly, it is really hard work out there. Not an easy thing to drive at all.
Yeah, it takes a lot of concentration being that close to the car in front of you. Not only because the car in front of you is punching out a hole and there's a little bit of dirty air going through there as well, but it's just hard work.
It is, absolutely. And you've got the whole thing. When you're using the force feedback wheels, of course, you've got that force going through your arms, and you can feel it. You've got to hold the car in a straight line because you're being buffered. You're feeling the car moving left and right constantly. When you start going into the corner, the car will want to push up the line, getting buffered from that. And of course you start to feel your rear end going as well. So there are all these little factors that come into play with this style of racing. Now if we look a little bit further back, we can see that Josh Micklemore is now starting that second train again, and he's going to start trying to run up and get the second line working. We've seen the high line has worked quite well tonight, and he's getting a relatively good run. But we could see somebody try and jump up there to take advantage of this. And it looks like at the moment, Aiden Schultz is having a little bit of a think about it, just sitting behind Jason Martin. He's trying to get some nice, cool air into the car as well. But I imagine once Josh Micklemore starts charging up here, he's going to be running, about 5 to 10 kilometers per hour faster than the guys ahead of him when he starts charging. And you've got to be careful of that as well, because if you jump up there to try and take advantage of that line behind you almost has to slow down, because all of a sudden they've got a slow car coming up to them, and the closing speed is incredible. You wouldn't think it doesn't sound much, 10 kilometers per hour. It really doesn't sound that much, but it is when you're going at about 300 kilometers per hour.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see Aiden Schultz there. He's just looking racy. It's like he's looking for an opportunity to jump out into that outside line and try to make a move.
Yeah, he is looking like he wants to get past these guys. But part of me wonders if it is something to do with the temperature of the car. I'm wondering if he's got some internal temperature issues, because he seems to be really jinking around and sort of trying to get some fresh air in that car.
And there he goes.
Starting to make that move, and up the line he goes. He's not managed to get in front of Micklemore. That third line is now working. Aiden Schultz is down the middle, and now we've got a hard, fast charging Holslander as well coming up to give Aiden Schultz a bit of a push. This is going to help Schultz a little bit, but this is where accidents can happen. Who is going to come out of this well? It looks like Josh Micklemore's getting a great push from the DPR cars of Phil Otto and Stephen Williams. They are doing a great job pushing him along, giving him a nice bit of a push, but they are free wide as they go around the banks here at Talladega.
Yeah, in that outside lane, they're going to really be concentrating hard. They're getting so close to the wall there.
They are, and it looks like a few people are starting to abandon that outside lane as well. You saw Skurlock dropping out of it, and now you see everybody dropping into that second lane, which is starting to get speed. Aiden Schultz getting a good push at the moment, and this could give him the opportunity to get ahead of Foster. Martin is going to want to try and keep Foster in the front, though, because he's going to want to try and make him use a bit more fuel. Schultz is going to come down, and he's got in front of Foster. So this is good news for Foster. Holslander is starting to pull back a little bit. He's dropping up the top. He's going to try and just drop back a little bit into the pack again. He has done a really good push for a few people, really helped them out. And now he's going to drop back a little bit, let the car cool down, get some fuel back in there, and just settle down a little bit as well. Let the heartbeat slow down a little bit. But you can see that second line is still working hard with Matt Knight up there at the moment, who is going down a lap. He is just in front of Jace.
Josh Micklemore, I think.
Josh Micklemore. Cheers, yeah, Josh Micklemore, yeah. He's just ahead of him. So, yeah, he's just ahead of him at the moment. And he's getting a good draft there from Micklemore, so that's really helping him out. Aiden Schultz he just went on down to the apron and had to drop off a little bit, and that's giving that outside line a chance as well.
And you can see that push that Josh Micklemore's giving Matt is just nosing him to the front.
Yes, Matt Knight, first race in the first race tonight in the chase. Sorry, Matt Knight's not a lap down. Sorry, he is actually on the lead lap. Sorry about that. That was a mistake there. I don't often make mistakes. I know that. No, he's up there. He's getting a great push there. We saw him drop back a little bit earlier on. Drop down the field after he tapped the wall. That's why I thought he was a lap down, actually. But he's managed to make a remarkable recovery there, running all the way back up to the front of the field. Brilliant driving from Matt Knight to get back up here.
Yeah, so far everyone's been fairly well behaved. 23 laps into a 90-lap race, and no one's really trying anything. People are sort of testing the waters a little bit, but I don't think anyone's too worried at the pointy end there about not being at the front just yet.
Yeah, people are, they want to try and keep out of trouble. That's the big thing. They're just trying to keep safe and keep the car nice and shiny, dent-free, things like that. As we see, Mitch Campbell coming down the middle line now. He's going to sit in the middle, and he's got James Robbie as well behind him. So they're having a bit of a play.
And this is Mitch's first run with the ANZCAR boys. Mitch is from 95 Sim Sport. He's actually running the V8s in the Nationwide Tracking System V8 series. So great to see some of these guys coming across to the stock car scene.
Yeah, we've got some good drivers out there tonight, and we've got a few new faces, as I say. New faces and faces that don't turn up too much. I believe Holslander is over in the US of A from memory. So he's over here racing tonight, just matching up with some of the other drivers. So yeah, he's over from the States, which doesn't do great things for the old ping. It's a bit of a reverse situation, really, because usually whenever we race on an American server, we get everybody shouting at us because we've got terrible ping. Now, the American's got terrible ping, but everything is running fine for him at the moment at the front of the grid, and he's doing a great job of just sitting mid-pack, not working too hard, not running too far, and just keeping an eye on the race at the moment. As you see, one of the DPR cars going up to the wall there. I think that was Phil Otto just making contact with the wall, just went up a little bit too quick, a little bit too fast, and I think that might have actually caught Holzlander up. So, yeah, Holzlander actually got caught up in that, and Nick got a bit of a bump in the front end, and that's going to affect him quite a bit. There's quite a bit of damage on the front end of that car, and that's really going to affect the aero.
We'll see if we can get the camera angles and have a closer look at the front of Nick's car in a minute.
Yeah, just up at the front, Aiden Schultz has swapped positions now, and we've got Hamish Gallagher making a bit of a run up at the in the mid pack. Edward Foster's managed to get back to the front of the train now. Schultz is just starting to drop back a little bit, so this is going to be good for Foster. It's going to help cool down his car a little bit. He'll have had some time to save some fuel. So this will help him out. At the moment, Jason Martin's just sitting pretty there. He's not worried too much at the moment. He's not pushing Foster too hard. He's getting a nice bit of air through the car, keeping the car cool. And he's just waiting for his teammates to slowly work their way up, which they're trying to do at the moment. Danny G in 7th place. Josh McLemore dropping down to 16th at the moment. He had a couple of unlucky moments. And we did see earlier on the JT Simshed team, of course, working really well together, having a lot of cars up there. At the moment, it's Foster in 1st, with Jason Harkin in 6th. Then it's all the way down to Joshua Carroll in 9th. So they've started splitting up as well. So it basically people are starting to sort of moving into places. As I said, it's a high-speed game of chess, just trying to block off teams from getting a good run, getting into a position where they can run as a single unit and start sort of making some pace, making some speed. Just one to sort of keep an eye on towards the back, I would say, is actually the little pack that's being run by Matt Hunter at the front of it. Matt Hunter, Mirko Dornak, Riley Curtis.
Looks like, sorry Carl, looks like Nick Houselander is into the pits. He's decided to come in early and get that repair done to his car, I'd say.
Yeah, getting that done, I think, affecting him quite a bit there, unfortunately. That's a real shame. He had some great speed out there tonight, was giving him some good times. So he's had to blink because he was losing just too much speed. And I think he might be calling it a night, unfortunately. So that looks like Nick Holzlander is out of the race, sadly. Good run from him, good comeback. Nice to see him back in the series. Just a shame he got that damage because that was fascinating watching him going through the pack, just dropping back a little bit. I would have liked to have seen what his strategy was going to be towards the end of the race. But unfortunately, that is Talladega. You have to have luck to have a chance here.
Yeah, absolutely. Disappointing, but yeah, look, race on. That's racing, I'm afraid.
Yes, motorsport is a fickle mistress sometimes and can really be quite punishing. And it could hurt quite a bit, but obviously when it goes well, it goes really well. When it goes bad, it goes really, really bad. And unfortunately, after that little bit of damage, it made things go quite bad. Anyway, back up the front, Foster is still in the lead at the moment as we are on lap 30 of this race, 90 laps in total, so 60 left to go from this one. And it looks like we've got a couple of people thinking about that pit stop. So a few people dropping into the lane already, a little bit further back. Bradley Allison and Matt Hunter, I think, into the pit lane.
Yep. Bradley Allison, Mirko Dortnak, Matt Hunter in the pit lane. So they've blinked first. And that was going to be my next question, Carl. What would you do running under green? Would you stay out as long as you possibly could, and then pit as late as you can to get those fresh tyres, or maybe take yourself and just pit halfway and carry on for the rest of the race?
Stay out as long as you can. If you're in the pack, if you've got that draft working, you are going to want to stay up there as much as you can. But we are going to see people like Foster and Micklemore needing to pit relatively soon as well, because those guys were running up the front quite a lot as well. So they will start suffering on fuel. Same with Aiden Schultz too. So they're probably going to be the first to blink of the pack. So they're going to want to try and stay up there and pit with the rest of the pack, obviously, because if you can do that, then you can get back to speed. It's worked out well for Allison there, because he's come out and he's going to be able to attach himself back onto the pack right now, get some speed up. Same for Matt Hunter. He's slotted himself in around about 10th place. So those guys are going to position themselves there, get some good speed. If they can keep the speed up, then it will work out. And up into the wall. There we go. Up into the wall. We got Aiden Schultz. Quite a few cars involved in that. The 152, Mick Wilson as well. Looks like Mick Wilson's just got caught up into Aiden Schultz, and that's what's caused it. And a big spin around, and round they go. And unfortunately, a few cars getting caught out of position for that. And then, so close from the number 7. Number 7 just getting very lucky there. Michael Shaw almost got caught up into that wreck. Very lucky not to get caught into that. But this is exactly what the leaders were wanting. This is going to be the moment where they can actually come in and get some fuel.
So this would have worked out perfectly for the leaders, Carl?
Absolutely. The people it doesn't work out for are those guys that stopped. So Matt Hunter and Bradley Allison, this is the worst case scenario, basically, because they've gone a lap down. Matt Hunter will get a wave free, so he'll get the lucky dog. So that's not too bad for him. But the rest of the pack will be able to pit under caution, which will mean they're not going to have to jostle for positions and lose places. So it's going to be a big race on pit lane now.
And we know that Jason Martin's pretty good in the pits. He's usually pretty quick. This is going to be a pressure stop for these guys.
They have to be millimetre perfect on this one. They really have to get it dead on the spot. If you miss your mark by a millimetre, you can lose time in this one. You've got to be running right on that edge of the speed limiter as well. Of course, you don't have a speed limiter in these cars. You have to do it manually. You have to do it yourself. So Foster and Martin are coming in, and looks like they've stopped in their positions well. And we're going to also see if everybody's going to take 4 tyres. We might see somebody roll the dice and only take 2 tyres. That's an option sometimes. Looks like Foster's taken 2, Foster's taken 4, Martin's taken 4. And looks like Foster's going to get out in front of the main pack there. So not too much change there. But we could have seen a couple of people. If you see some people jumping up the timing screen, it could just be from just maybe only changing 2 tyres, things like that, doing a little bit of a roll of the dice. But in all honesty, under the caution, you're going to want to get everything done as possible, change all those tyres, get any repairs that need to be done, and not worry too much about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're watching, having a look at the pit stop times there. You see Foster did a 14.8, Martin a 14.8, Gallagher a 14.9. Hardigan was pretty slow there with a 15.8, and JCW with a 15.
Yeah, just a little bit off. It can be just that thing of just coming in a little bit too slow into your box, and it's such a tricky thing to do. Again, it's one of those skills that you think, well, that can't be too hard. It's just stopping. But you can lock up a brake. You can come in a bit too hot. You can overshoot your box. You can come in a little bit too slow. You just slow down a bit too much, and you lose precious tenths of a second. It's such an important little role. And these guys practice these stops constantly. These guys will have been practicing stopping a lot. And it will be that thing of just trying their best to get those marks set out. So it looks like Ashley Davis has stayed out, one of the 95 SimSport crew. So he stayed out, just going to lead a couple of laps here, get a bonus point, things like that. It's always nice to say you've led a race as well. But I imagine he will drop back or jump into the pits now, which he is doing. So yeah, coming into the pit lane now for himself to get those repairs done. But he did manage to lead a lap, so he will get a bonus point for that.
Fantastic, and that's also enabled him to have a nice, quiet pit entry there. I've raced with these guys, and when it's your very first race, and you've got no pit limiter, and you're grip limited with these cars, and you've got someone like Jason Martin or even Ed Foster right behind you, I tell you what, it certainly does give you a moment of pause.
Yeah, the pressure really comes on. And one of the other things as well that you don't sort of think about is when you're actually in when you're in this sort of racing, you obviously drive through another car when you're pitting. You sort of go through other cars. But that can be really hard as well because you've got to look out for your pit marker. You've got to know where your pit box is. So you're looking out for that lollipop sometimes. If you're a little bit unsure where it's going to be, say you qualified down in sort of 8th or 9th, sometimes you can be a bit unsure where that lollipop's going to stick out. And all of a sudden, you're coming along and you overshoot your pit box or you stop too soon. And mistakes like that can be really costly too. It's a very tricky thing to do. It's not easy at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking back there from the rear of Foster's car, he's got Hamish Gallagher right behind him. So Jason Martin beside him, Hamish Gallagher behind him, and Jason Hardigan behind Jason Martin for the restart.
Foster there just may have had a bit of a brown alert moment. Just hearing over the radio, he had a white-tipped spider jump down into his lap, but luckily it waited until the caution to do it. So the worst-case scenario happened at the best possible time for himself, and luckily it seems like he is unharmed. So yeah, you've got to be careful of those spiders.
Yeah, well, what can you say? If that's gonna happen during the pit stop, is probably the best time for it to happen.
A rather polite spider as the pace car pulls in. Foster effectively becomes the pace car. He's going to sit there, get ready to roll. Going to be a long bit of yellow, and then the green flag will drop, and you'll see Foster make his run. When is he going to launch the car? He'll be thinking about it. And he's waiting. It's his prerogative to make that start. And he's going to drop the pedal now. So he started up now. Nice, easy start there. Nothing too extreme. He didn't make a big bolt for it, which is a smart thing to do on a speedway like this. Unlike those short tracks where you want to try and make a bolt for the lead, where you want to try and make a big gap at the start, on these super speedways, you want to try and make as little gap as possible, because a big gap means that people are going to get a draft behind you and then sail past you, and you're going to lose a lot of positions.
Yeah, and Foster, he's made a bit of a jump there, and he's got Gallagher right behind him, and now he's got JCW behind Gallagher. And watch out for JCW. He's a little bit of a dark horse. You don't actually see him sort of coming, and then before you know it, he's leading the race and he's taking that win.
No, you don't see him, but sometimes you hear him. JCW is one of those drivers that can sneak up, and he has got pedigree on these super speedways. Of course, at the beginning of the year, a long time ago at Daytona, he took out that victory, of course. So he does have pedigree on these super speedways. So he is definitely one to look out for. And he's going to be trying hard. Jason Hartigan as well. He's just sitting there, just waiting, not pushing too hard. Just sitting behind Jason Martin at the moment. But Martin's just looks like he's trying to drop back a little bit. He doesn't want to get too far up, too high up. Looks like he's trying to get into a bit of position with some of his teammates as well. So again, he's wanting to try and stop Foster's teammates getting up to him, and that's part of the game too. You can see very close to Jason Hartigan is Lachlan Urquio in the red Sim Shed broadcasting car. He's just a little bit further behind, and behind him is Josh Micklemore. So, all of these teammates are in different positions, and they're all going to be trying to gamble for position, trying to get those positions up. Micklemore is going up to that high line again, and he's going to want to try and get somebody to help him to push. Looks like somebody has joined him. And that is Roger Clark, I think. So Roger Clark just up there trying to get that high line working, but nobody else is willing to jump out just yet. Everybody's sitting there a little bit cautious at the moment.
Yeah, everybody's really behaving themselves. It's quite unusual to see, really, but I mean, it still is really early days, and no one can really break away at this stage. They need to be sitting behind each other. They need to be sort of buying their time.
Yeah, they're just waiting for their time to pounce. Of course, the only lap that counts is the lap at the end of the race. It's that lap 90 that counts. Of course, that's the one you want to lead. But you can see now, again, Micklemore's just trying to get that high line working. He's just getting a little bit of help there. Tristan Koch is coming along as well now for that ride. Just coming up behind those guys, going to help start pushing them along. So they're going to start working their way up there. And if Mickelmore can get attached to Martin, it could be a really good thing for that Mitch Motorsport team. They could be for a good position. At the moment, their third driver, Danny G, is a bit further down the field. He had to avoid some of that incident. He's down there in 18th place at the moment. But he's going to try and work his way up. And we have seen drivers work their way up the field quite effectively tonight.
And yeah, that high line does look really, really quick. And you can see it as they come off the banking. They seem to start catching up fairly quickly to the guys on the lower two lines.
Well, it's sort of a moment of the aero of the car, of course, because you don't have any air coming at you. You've got that wall beside you, basically blocking any of the aero wash. So it sometimes can be a bit quicker running up against the wall, especially when you've got cars behind you. But you do run the risk of clipping the wall, of course. It's a very dangerous spot to be. And Foster at the moment, he's just pulling up the lower line, trying to get them run a little bit more mid-line at the moment to just put off the guys behind him. You can just see him just sliding up the road a little bit occasionally, and just trying to get the rest of the guys to follow him, just to sort of try and psych out the drivers that are sitting on that second line, the drivers like Jason Martin. The psychological games have started.
Yeah, and if anyone's a master of playing those sorts of psychological games, Ed Foster certainly is. He's a very, very clued in, very sharp race car driver, sim racer. And he certainly knows how to pedal these cars.
He does, but if there's one person that can withhold that pressure, it is Jason Martin. We've seen it a number of times in this series. Jason Martin, people trying their best to put the pressure onto him, to try and put the screws into him, and he does hold his cool very well. He is a very cool customer, and he is a hard person to beat because he generally remains pretty calm behind the wheel. And he's done that again, and you can see he's getting a good run up here with Jason Hardigan behind him. So getting a good run at the moment. He's starting to make that move up along the second line, getting into some good positions. And you can see also just behind them, you've got Skurlock there, Michael Skurlock. He's just sitting back there in the Pace Syndicate car, just not really pushing too hard. He's got James Robbie behind him as well, teammate, so they're looking good at the moment. Not really pushing too hard at the moment, but just sitting there in contention.
Yeah, look, I mean, these guys are a class field, and I'm sure Michael Skurlock's sitting there watching these guys, seeing where their strengths and weaknesses are, and just counting down the laps before he decides, yeah, now it's time to have a go.
Yeah, taking notes on his steering wheel. I imagine he's got a pen and paper there, just scribbling away as he drives.
Maybe a slide rule and an abacus, I don't know.
All of those important things, doing mathematical calculations at 300 kilometers per hour. We do know that Skurlock can do those kind of things. He is a very, very quick driver, and he's got a very quick brain when it comes to it as well. But at the moment, Foster still remains in the lead with Hamish Gallagher behind him, and we know Hamish Gallagher as well can be very, very strong as well. We're coming up to a lapped car now. Ashley Davis back on track, so he's going to try and stay up high as these cars go past. But this can be the dangerous point because you're going to see the closing speed as these guys go round. If one of these cars in the pack slides up high as they go to lap him, it can be very easy for a mistake to happen and a big crash to come from it. But it looks like Ashley Davis is just sitting up there nice and high, not putting any problems on anyone keeping a wide berth. He's just going to drop back a little bit further down the pack and then sort of slot himself into a good position.
Yeah, fantastic. I guess that's the way to ingratiate yourself with these guys, is to not make any of those sorts of mistakes. If you're going to be slower, get out of the way and let them get past and get on with the job.
That's it. It is one of those things of, if you're not too sure on this kind of racing, if you're still not 100% confident, don't race with the leaders. Don't worry about it. Run your own race. That's the thing. You want to run your own race. You want to just get the experience and learn. You want to follow sort of mid to late pack. Just get an idea of get a good idea of things that are going on, and it can be a good way to learn things as well. And of course, when you're being lapped, you don't have to get out of the way. You can, of course, fight those positions, especially if you're just one lap down, because obviously if a pace car comes out, you can get that lap back and you can get back onto the tail. You can sometimes win a race from that position. But when you're sort of 2 laps down, when you're not really fighting for position at the moment, those are the times you've got to choose your fights and not go too hard, because you can end up ruining a lot of people's races, and you can make a lot of people very unhappy. As we come up to another car, Mitch Campbell at the moment behind the wheel of that car. He's going up high as well. So 95 SimSport team. Obviously, first time out here tonight, so still learning. And Campbell's made contact with the wall. He's managed to slide down and keep control. Good job from Mitch Campbell there not to spin it. He did very well not to go into anyone there, and that is the risk of being lapped as well, because when you run up on that high line, there are marbles. You lose a bit of the car's stability, and of course you also get the aero wash from this big pack coming past you at 20-30 kilometers per hour more speed than you, and you can lose the car a little bit. He did a great job of holding that car. That's going to be mostly down for next time, a little bit of experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And while that was all going on, we were on board with Danny G, and he seems to be a little racy. I mean, he's down there in 17th, 18th. He's picked up a couple of cars, and he just seems to be looking a little bit strong at this phase of the race.
Yeah, I think Danny G's playing a bit of the long game here. He's not pushing it too hard, just trying to keep his nose clean. He's got Norman Clark on his outside at the moment. Got Marco Dortmack in front of him as well, so they're going to be sort of just trying to keep relatively calm, and they're working their way up into that top 10. So they're going to try and get into the top 10, and it wouldn't surprise me to see Danny G jump in the high line soon and try and get to work with his teammate Josh Mickelmore.
Yeah, and that's the pedigree of these guys. You know, you look at where they are, you look at their position, and you think, well, yeah, that's their race over and out. No, not at all. They can come back from that position, and before you know it, they're running their 3 cars right up at the pointy end of the field.
Well, as a great commentator used to say, anything can happen in motorsport, and it usually does. It is definitely a case of that being so true. You can never say never in motorsport, never give up, because you never know what's going to happen. You could get an enormous wreck towards the end of this race. All of the teams can be involved in it. You could lose half the field or even the whole field easily, and that can be very problematic. At the moment, this lead pack is running 3 wide, and this could be a bit of a problem as they're coming up on Phil Otto, I believe. Not Phil Otto, sorry. Trying to work out who that is now. They're coming up on Bradley Allison, and they're coming up on Bradley Allison, who's been a running partner as well. So those guys are going to go up high, and obviously the lead pack are going to want to stay 2 wide now, because when they were starting to run 3 wide, that can be very problematic when you're lapping cars, because that really does make problems.
Speaking of problems, it looks like, is that Bradley Allison then with no front end, or? No,
Bradley Allison's okay. I think it's Mick Wilson up there. Mick Wilson with no front end on his car, so he's got a bit of an advantage for cooling, but not an advantage for aerodynamics.
Yeah, it's certainly not going to help much with the aerodynamics, and I don't think Bradley's going to get much of a tow out of that.
No, he's not going to get too much speed out of that one, but Mick Wilson is a couple more laps down, I believe. So he is he's 3 laps down at the moment. Bradley Allison's only 2 laps down. So Brad Allison's probably just sitting there and just trying to conserve fuel a little bit. For a little bit of time, just conserving a little bit of fuel just in case it goes green. He has got damage to his car as well, so he's probably running not at the right pace. He might have a bit of engine damage, which of course can really hamper you on these speedways, because it does look like Mick's got a little bit more pace over Bradley at the moment. So I'd say he's got a little bit of engine damage, unfortunately, and that's really going to affect him. He's going to struggle for the rest of the night.
Yeah, okay. Thoughts here, Carl. Do these guys have enough fuel to make it to the end?
No. No is the answer. They do not. So they will have to pit one more time. We pitted, 15 laps ago, I think it was?
I think something like that, yeah.
Yeah, they won't have enough to make it to the end. Some people may give it a try if they are down in the pack. And I just saw Raymond Yeager just going very slow on the infield. Just wondering what happened there for him. Let's see if I can find out. Looks like he might have connection problems, some sort of problem for Raymond Yeager, unfortunately. But I don't think they have enough to the end. From what we were looking at before for the actual, for the pace of these cars, for what they were running, they wouldn't have made it to the end on fuel. So, in short, no. I think we're going to look at one more stop here. So, if we get a caution come out, then of course they will be all good and dandy. If it remains green, we might see some people trying to edge it out as long as they can to get a quick splash and dash. See what they can do with the cars and try and work it out from there.
Yeah, okay. And we've seen Hamish Gallagher there go to the high line, and now he and Jason Martin are working together to try and get in front of Ed Foster.
Yes, but unfortunately for Hamish Gallagher moving out the way, this has given Joshua Carroll Walden the chance to come down and get behind his teammate. So that's going to help him out quite well. So Foster's got his teammate right behind him, and Jason Harskin as well is just sitting there. If he can get his tail just ahead of Skurlock, those guys are going to want to slide down in front into each other. They can get a good team formation running. So they're going to try their best there, see how they go. So it will be interesting to see how this goes. That high line has looked a little bit racier all race long, but they're not quite got the speed of that low line still.
Yeah, it seems that low line is still able to sort of eke away from the high line as they come out of the banking.
Yeah, they're just getting a little bit better speed off the just on the exit of the banking. So they're sort of getting a little bit better entry in there as well, and that's sort of helping them out. The exit's helping out the high line. You'll see the high line starts to edge ahead a little bit as they come into the corner, and then they start losing that time as they go through the corner, of course, because they're taking a longer route with that high line. It's only a little bit longer, but it is a longer route, of course. But then they start getting a little bit better traction, and they start building up a little bit more speed than the low line, but it's not by much, and they've got to really work together to get it working, and that's the tricky part.
Yeah, absolutely, and it looks like something may have happened to Hamish Gallagher there, because he sort of fell back a little bit more than what he has in the previous laps.
Yeah, I think Hamish just had a bit of a moment actually coming out of turn 4. He just had to ease off the throttle a sec for a slight moment. He's getting back up there now, but that's the risk of running the high line sometimes, because although this track isn't too bad on tyres, you do start getting marbles out there. Obviously, they are cleaning the track as they run this race. The main marbles will be right on that outside and on the actual infield on the on the actual infield as well. But it can get a little bit slippery out there sometimes, and you can get a little bit loose as well, especially with side drafts, things like that. It's almost like a little bit of a wind direction change, and all of a sudden you just get a little bit, you feel the car just going a little bit, you just ease off the throttle by 5%, and you lose a little bit at a time, but he's going to get back now.
Yeah, and looking at the front of Jason Hardigan's car, that will give you an idea of how close together these cars are running.
Yeah, you cannot get much closer than this without causing a big accident. These guys are nose to tail, and as I said, they've just got to watch out for overheating, and this is where you'll see the cars just moving around over the straight line and getting just out of the draft a little bit, just getting a little bit of fresh air, some clean air into their car. Just looking back down the field, we've got a few different people in some different places. We've still got that sort of bit of a train running for Riley Curtis and Michael Schroeder at the moment. Those guys in the A1 SimSport cars are running pretty well together at the moment. They're just keeping back. They've got Aiden Schultz coming up to them now, so they're all working together as a team. Matt Hunter's back there as well. So those guys are just sitting back a little bit. They're not running up at the front of the field, at the pointy end of the field at the moment, but they're holding on for position as Skurlock starts to make a bit of a look for position on Joshua Carroll Walden there. He was just having a little sneaky look there, poked his nose in, and JCW said, nope, you're not getting past. But they are just sitting back there and in a good position at the moment. They're not pushing too hard, and they will be saving a lot of fuel, so they could be in a good spot if we do get some green flag pits for the leaders. Those guys could be in a good position if there is a caution that causes if they get a caution in their favour, of course.
Yeah, and all the while, nothing's really changed at the front, but you can see that Hamish Gallagher is trying to get a little bit of a lead going on there, but it's just not working for him. It seems that the low line is still, at this stage, working better.
Yeah, the low line seems the most stable line at the moment, and the low line's been working together pretty much all night long as well. They've been working very well with each other, and it just looks like Hamish Gallagher's just struggling. Just in a couple of corners, he's just having a little bit of a struggle with that front end a couple of times, just mid apex. But then he's getting a good draft as he comes out. This time's a good actual run. This could be Gallagher's chance to get down in front of Foster. He looks like he's going to try and make the move. Will he get it done? He does. He slides down in front of Foster. Good push there from Jason Martin, and good move for Hamish Gallagher. Again, this isn't dire for Foster because this is going to give him a bit of a block in front of him that's going to help save a little bit of fuel. But I imagine Foster would like to be out in the clean air just for the safety of it.
And you've seen Jason Hardigan has just dived to the inside as well, which has left Jason Martin on his own for a little bit. So he's going to drop back a little now. Yeah,
Jason Hardigan just making a bit of a mistake there from the look of it. He just dropped down. And also Michael Shaw as well. I think Michael Shaw might be coming. He caught the apron as he was going through, and he did a great job of holding that car. He didn't come back on the high line. He stayed down a little bit lower and kept a really good position for himself there. He's going to drop right to the back, unfortunately. MJS Sim Racing. He's going to drop to the back, but he did a good job of holding that car, which could have been a absolute nightmare of a crash if he went round in that mid-pack. Everybody started to drop back into single file now.
Yeah, and that's left, I think is that Gilotto that's left out on his own there, like out in the cold, so that's going to cause him to drop back a fair bit.
It is, but he's going to get a little bit of help from Roger Clark now, so Roger's coming up behind Phil, and it looks like Phil's going to slide in behind Roger maybe, or just drop down, so Roger Clark's gentlemanly action of coming up there to try and help him out is actually going to cost him dearly. He's going to drop back possibly behind Mirko Dortnack, depending on if he can slide in front of his teammate of Lachlan Oquio, who he does manage to get through that. Norman Clark, change of team colours, always throws me off. So his dad being extra nice to him, letting him back into the line there, Roger getting a bit of a save.
Yeah, that's that's the mark of a true gentleman. Well, actually, that's the mark of your dad. Your dad's always going to help you out.
Well, sometimes they do get racy together sometimes, and that's when the fun really starts. But yeah, getting a good help there and just letting him get back in the position. So not too bad for those guys. But again, they're just working their way up slowly through the field. Norman and Roger are just coming up slowly. Roger qualified down there in 20th. Norman a bit further down, and they were struggling a little bit through there, but they're sitting in a relatively good position. Stephen Williams getting out of the draft a bit, but Marco Dortnack being very nice and letting him back into the line, getting back into that drafting position. So
now, what I was going to say is Foster going to try to dive to the inside quickly there. Now there's a couple of slow cars there ahead of them, one on the high line, one on the low line, so this is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I imagine they're going to try and jump up as high as they can. That's Bradley Allison and Mick Wilson. Those two are still running 2x2 at the moment. You can see Bradley Allison just really struggling. He seems to be really down on power. So obviously he took a big hit to the engine. So just struggling there, just falling back. Not really an opportunity for the leaders to make a pounce there.
Now, if you're Ed Foster and JCW here, do you both shoot out to the outside here and see if you can get a run on Hamish Gallagher on the high line?
I'd probably stick where I am at the moment because of all this green flag running. It's just giving you a little bit better fuel mileage. Could be a little bit of an advantage. If it gives you an extra lap, it could be the difference between winning this race and losing it. It can depend on temperature as well, of course. If Foster's car is getting a bit hot, he might think about it. But at the moment, I think he's going to be happy just sitting behind Gallagher, just letting him keep the lead. We're still only on lap 65. We've still got a long way to go. 90-lap race, remember. So he's just going to sit there, just save on fuel mileage, not have to stress too much about people coming up behind him. Eventually, we might see him try and make the move, but they're pretty much single file at the moment. Nobody's really wanting to run that outside line. Although Foster is doing a couple of probes, as he's getting some clean air through the radiator, he is just starting to probe Hamish Gallagher. You can see him moving low and high, almost a little bit further than normal. Just saying to Hamish Gallagher that, yes, I am here, and I am ready to make the move if you make a slight mistake.
Yeah, well, Ed's been leading this race for quite a while, so you would think that he's used the most fuel. So sitting behind someone for a few laps is probably going to help him out a little bit.
Yeah, fuel mileage can be a big thing, and it can really make a difference in a race. It's a bit of a boring thing to talk about, and talking about fuel mileage and tyres is not the most exciting racing, but on a tactical front, it is a very interesting racing aspect. It's another part of that sort of juggling act that you have to perform as a driver. And as a sim racer, it's even harder, of course, because you don't have teammates. You don't have strategic teammates. You don't have strategists in the pit lane making those calls. You're literally making those calls on the fly in your head. You've got to work it out for yourself, by yourself. And that can be very tricky.
Absolutely. I mean, look, on a road course that might be a 1 minute 30-second road course, losing 2 or 3 seconds, you can usually make that up pretty quickly. But on an oval, which is a 50-second oval, losing 2 or 3 seconds is a lot of time to lose.
Losing 3 seconds would put you down in 22nd place right now. That's the difference it makes. It's a big difference. It's amazing how tight these guys are racing. There's absolutely nothing between the front. You have to look down to 9th place before you get a second gap. So it's generally a tenth, all the way down to sort of 10th place, and that's where you start seeing a second, because you can only make so much time because these cars are a set length. So you can't be faster than the car in front of you in the straight line on that line, because you can't go through them, of course.
It just doesn't happen.
No, unless you make a really big mistake, but generally your car's not really running much longer than that. If you end up going through a car, it's generally not going to go for the rest of the race. So it's not a good thing to happen. But we are 22 laps to go now. Gallagher's giving that nice bit of blocking air for Foster. He's got nice clean air at the moment, and these guys are going to be thinking towards the end of the race now. They're counting down. They're working out how much fuel they need. They're thinking about lifting and coasting a little bit, maybe rolling off the throttle a little bit through the corners. Of course, one of the big advantages when you are behind another car here is you don't have to go full throttle. Hamish Gallagher is full to the floor as we see a few cars coming into the pits. So we've got Jason Martin, we've got Josh Micklemore, as Tristan Koch has made a big mistake going onto the grass. All the Mitch Motorsport cars have pitted though, so they've blinked, they've made their move. Oh, and Tristan Koch has gone into Danny G. Big moment there, and that might have cost Mitch Motorsport this race. Koch just coming back, joining the track, has hit Danny G in the pit lane, and that's going to be some damage to Danny G, and that's going to really affect him. But most of all, that's going to really affect their strategy, because they needed all three cars to work that slipstream.
Yeah, they obviously had a plan there, jumping into the pits at the same time, getting out at the same time, and working that slipstream. And now we see the Sim Shed guys reacting and getting into the pits.
We do, and you just see Foster just absolutely aggressive coming in there side by side. He managed to make up a little bit of a position for himself, and you can see all of those Simshed cars behind him of Joshua Carroll-Walden, Jason Hartigan. Those guys were really on it to the line. A risky strategy. If you make a mistake, of course, you're going to be looking at a penalty, but they're coming in for their stops right now, and this is leaving Michael Skurlock in the lead now. So he's going to probably be coming in very shortly. He's got James Robbie behind him. So they're going to be pushing really hard now to try and make up a little bit of time, see if they can get a little bit of time over the leaders. And if a caution comes out, they could be sitting pretty. So they're coming out, and Foster looks to have got a good stop. Foster looks to have jumped Gallagher, actually. So only Phil Otto in front of him. So Phil Otto managed to get out in front of Foster. So some good stops there. Phil Otto didn't take any tyres. He just took fuel. So he's made a big jump from the back of the field to the front. Skurlock's come in now. Those leaders are coming into pit. So everybody's in pit lane, and this is going to leave Phil Otto leading this race now on those very worn tyres. But you can see maybe not paying off for him as Edward Foster and JCW start working together and pushing along. On the outside, though, you can see that Jason Martin's getting a good push from Josh Micklemore right now, and they are pushing along as hard as they can to try and get that lead position. But it's not working out for them. They just needed that extra car of Danny G. That could have been the difference between getting the lead of this race and sitting on the high line, possibly dropping back to second or third. They've got to try and make this move and get in front of Foster. They really need to make this work. It's going to be chaotic out on the track as people are rejoining now as well. After their pit stops, you can see there are cars coming in off the pit lane. There are cars getting into position. There are cars just getting out of the way. It's very chaotic out there at the moment. And Skurlock up the top.
And we've seen all three of the Simshed cars now, nose to tail. So that's going to help those guys along a little bit. And we've got Phil Otto sort of trying to join the back of the Mitch Motorsport cars.
Yeah, Phil's trying his best to get on there. He didn't take tyres, remember, so he is taking a bit of a gamble out there. So that's going to hurt him for traction. Skurlock managed to get a good stop, but not quite good enough. He was getting a good push from his teammate, James Robbie, who's managed to get in front of him. But you can see the difference that's happened because Mitch Motorsport lost that third car. Danny G getting hit in the pit lane by Tristan Koch could have been the difference between first and fourth place right now. So a disaster for them. They looked to have a good strategy there. Really, really just unfortunate. Again, luck is very fickle sometimes. And it's not worked out perfectly for the Mitch Motorsport team because they seem to have a good strategy there. If they had all three cars running together, they might have had a bit of a gap between Ed Foster and Joshua Carroll-Walden.
Yeah, 100% there, Carl. I mean, yeah, like you said, that's just a really a big shame there for Danny G with that incident in the pits. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a few words spoken after the race.
Yeah, definitely will be a couple of words, and Tristan Koch will probably get a couple of notices for that one. He lost it coming into the pit lane, unfortunately, but came back to rejoin and just didn't see Danny G on the inside. One of the problems with these cars is the fact you've got quite a big A pillar in there at the back of them, and you don't have much view in these cars. You've got your mirrors, of course, but you don't have wing mirrors on these cars. You've just got a honking great mirror in the middle of the car. If you use virtual mirror, that can help out a bit, but they aren't easy to see around, and you do have view issues sometimes, and it is easy to not see a car. Sometimes when you're going around a corner as well, with the A and the B pillars, you won't see a car spinning around in front of you, and all of a sudden you just go smashing into a car. But you've got to say, at the moment, it's worked out well for Foster, who's got his teammates of JCW and Jason Hartigan behind him. But Jason Martin's getting a good push now, as he's getting Phil Otto, Michael Skurlock, and James Robbie there, working well together, those guys.
Yeah, they're starting to form a longer train there on the outside line, so that's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen there.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing to see. You saw Mirko Dornak have to come in, possibly a penalty for him, as he did not make much of a stint there. So that's going to hurt the low line a little bit, because there's not many cars down there right now. It is just the three JP Simshed cars at the moment. They need to get a couple of cars up there helping them out, because with the top line now, they're going to start getting an advantage. They've got more cars in their line. They're going to start working together and possibly get a good run. If they get a good run here, it could really affect Foster.
Yeah, absolutely. So these guys are going to be wanting to, they're going to be pushing hard to try to get all three of their cars moving into the high line together. But now they've got Phil Otto.
Stephen Williams was
Stephen Williams on the back of their line. So that's going to help them a little bit as well.
Yeah, it's going to help them. They're coming up behind Bradley Allison and Mick Wilson again. They're still going around, still keeping the cars going. They're going a fair few laps down. They're going to go 4 and 5 laps down respectively, but they're keeping the experience going. They're keeping out their running, and they will get points from this race. That's the big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And hats off to these guys for staying out there. It's showing. It's showing tenacity, but it's also showing respect for the guys who put this series together.
Yeah, very much so. It's always a big thing when you've got cars out there, and it's never fun being lapped, but it does give you good experience. It does give you a good idea of how things work as well, and it can give you some good lessons for the future. Bradley Allison, of course, this being his first season in the ANZCAR League for the Cup. He's still learning a bit, of course. He's doing a great job, and he's had a great season. He is up there in the chase, of course. So he does want to make sure he can finish this race. He wants to finish this race if he can, because it's going to be points for him and help him along. Of course, he's fighting with Matt Hunter at the moment, just down towards the bottom end of the chase. But it is still a fight for those positions. So all of those points count and can be critical.
Yeah, 100%. When you're in this kind of field of racing, this kind of class of racing, every single point counts.
It does. You never know what's going to happen next as well. You could be taken out on the first corner the next time round, and you could lose all your points, or all of your championship rivals could not finish. And that's another thing. That can be a big changer in it. Of course, we're going to be running we're going to be running a road course next at the Charlotte Roval, so it's going to be a very different course, and it's going to give an opportunity to some other drivers out there as well. So expect to see people like Jason Hartigan start to come on quite strong there. People like Michael Skurlock. Josh Micklemore tends to be good on those road tracks as well. There are a couple of really big road track specialists out there.
Yep. 100%. Jason Hartigan loves those road tracks, and he tends to do quite well at them. So watch out for him there.
Yeah, having raced against Jason, having raced against both Jasons, I can say they are hard to race against. But Jason Hartigan is something else on a road track. He is very quick, and he is very tricky to race against. But so is Michael Skurlock. Again, one of those drivers that he's just extremely quick on a road course, and you just in awe sometimes of just how they can manage it when they go curb hopping, a lap after lap after lap, getting the car in the right place, and you just think, how are you 2 seconds faster than me? I'm going fast. How can you be that much faster?
Exactly. And we're seeing Jason Martin now trying to turn it on. So he's
got one of the lapped cars coming up now, and just taking a few moments to go up high. That would have given Foster a bit of a moment there. Bradley Allison just struggling to get back up on the high. Sorry, Danny G. Sorry, there it was Danny G. up there, just struggling to get up high. But he's going to want to try and get onto the back of that top line now and try and help his teammates. How much damage did he get in the pit lane? That's the question for him. So Foster is really, really trying his best to keep there as they go past the 05, I believe.
That's going to be Norman Clark, I think.
Yes, Norman Clark. 09, sorry, yeah. So, yeah, going past Norman Clark there. So, again, he's going to want to try and drop down and get back onto that low line and try and help push those guys along. So, you know, even though those teammates are a lap down, they can still help their drivers out. So, there's going to be a lot of jiggery pokery and a few moving of positions. You can see right now Skurlock and Robbie are now working for that third line. They've dropped out of position from Martin and Micklemore. So they're trying to get in front of those two now. They're trying their best to run a third line at the moment, trying to get as much speed as they can, as James Robbie is literally just pushing Skurlock along. They want to try and get ahead of the Mitch Motorsport cars, but they're going to have to drop in because they are coming up to a lapped car again. So there's going to only be 2 lanes left because they will be going past one of the lapped cars, and they'll just want to get past as quick as possible, so they can try and get back on that outside line. They're looking racy, trying to beat the Mitch Motorsport team, but at the moment you've got to say the JP Simshed boys have got, well, they've got 3 bullets in their gun at the moment up at the front with Foster, Carol Walden and Hartigan, whereas Mitch Motorsport and the Pace Syndicate boys only have 2 bullets left. So they've got to really, really try hard, those guys. So you'll see what they can do. There's also, don't forget, the DPR Ben Max Talk boys of Stephen Williams and Phil Otto there as well. Phil's doing a great job on those old tyres. He's sticking to his teammate, and they are still in contention. You know, all of those cars are still there, ready to win this race if something goes wrong. As we hit lap 84, we are on now. We're going on to lap 85 next. As this race is coming down to the last few laps now. It's starting to heat up, and this is where people are going to start putting on the pressure, trying to get in front, start making those moves, start thinking about getting that win.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can see the guys on that high line are looking really racy. Jason Martin is trying everything he can to get out, nose out in front of Ed Foster and drop down in front of him.
Yeah, he really wants to get out there and just slide in front of Foster and just hold that position, because at the moment he can't get the speed he needs to be in front of Foster as they come across the start-finish line for lap 85 here. That's the problem with the start-finish line here as well at Talladega. It is a long way away from where it normally would be. So you're racing all the way to that last point. But because usually that high line starts to lose a little bit of speed, it can be a bit of a curse. So that low line's looking good at the moment. But if they can organise it so they get a good run on that last lap, you could see that high line just tipping Foster to the post. It looks to be a fight between Foster and Martin at the moment. And it's looking like it's going to be lining up to be a great battle here to the finish.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing in it, and we can't pick it.
No, it would be like betting on Pierre Gasly to win a Formula One race. You wouldn't expect it to ever happen, but it could happen. This is the thing. You don't know what's going to happen here. Just seen Mirko Dornak just drop back on the tail of those guys. He's a lap down now from the penalty he had to serve, but he's back there, and he's got some serious speed as well. As Foster's just had to jink out a little bit of a mistake there from Foster down the back straight. Not sure what happened there. Maybe another spider getting in the way. Hopefully not. But he has managed to keep his position.
Yeah, that was a bit of a heart and mouth moment there. Don't know what happened, but at least he jinked to the right way and didn't jink into to Jason Martin.
Yeah, it looks like something just may have caught Foster there, and he did well to get back into position. And oh, there's a crash behind! There is a crash behind! Big crash! Car in the stratosphere there.
I think that might have been Michael Shaw.
Michael Shaw there, yeah. Michael Shaw just unfortunately getting launched into the sky. Getting launched way up into the sky. Michael Shaw making a landing on the moon after that one. Quite a few cars caught up in that one. That was a huge crash. Just a real unfortunate incident, really. Just trying to work out what happened there. Michael Shaw just went up. Michael Shaw.
Look at that lovely pirouette and then back down on all four wheels.
He did make it back to terra firma, but unfortunately, Michael Shaw just making a little mistake there, and he just tapped the wall and then went down into Tristan Koch. He went down into Norman Clark. So big crash.
Well, what an interesting turn of events this is.
Yeah, this is going to make things very different.
Kind of really not what you'd like to see, but I mean, it is what it is, and it's going to make for a very, very interesting finish.
Yeah, we're gonna have a sprint to the finish here as we're on lap 87. So that's going to be an interesting one to the end now. So don't imagine that anyone is going to pit for tyres or anything like that. We might see a few dummies, but they are going to be racing hard to the end right now. So we'll see what happens here. You can see Jason Martin just selling the dummy down there, but no one's
buying.
Nobody's buying anything there, and they're staying out. You got to say though, it's looking good for Foster at the moment because
Don't jinx
he
him.
is.
I'm not being biased.
You can say the same for the other driver.
Yeah, no.
It's looking really good for Jason Martin at the moment. There we go. I'll jinx both of them.
I'm keeping my mouth shut here. I've got the blood pressure monitor on.
The stresses of being a team owner.
The stress level, yep. I've got my calm pills in front of me. But look, this is going to be on. You know that Jason Martin is very strong on the restarts. He's got his teammate behind him, and it's going to be interesting to see what the JP Simshed guys do. Do they try to orchestrate the start together, and or is this going to be up to Foster and he'll just launch when he's ready to go?
The blessing here for Foster is he has got 3 teammates behind him. That's going to work out very well for him. On the outside line, Jason Martin's going to have Josh Micklemore behind him with Michael Skurlock there. James Robbie is going to be sitting just beside him behind Jason Hartigan. So 3 cars of the JP Simshed team up ahead with the 2 cars of Mitch Motorsport there. Then you've got Pace Syndicate there. You can see these teams have started shaping themselves out now towards the end of the race, and they are pretty much all line abreast. You've got Michael Skurlock, James Robbie. Then you've got Stephen Williams and Phil Otto. And then it starts to get a little bit more pickled behind as you've got Matt Hunter and Hamish Gallagher. Matt Knight doing a great job up in 12th still. So earlier damage we saw from Matt Knight. Really good job from him getting up into 12th. So good to see him doing so well. Obviously, his I think it's his first outing, if I remember correctly. So doing a really good, strong showing here. So good job on him. But this restart's going to be a bit of a nail biter.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm just going to keep my eyes shut for the next 3 laps and just listen to you for the 1 lap to go by hybrid racing simulations, so I can activate that icon up on the screen. But this is going to be an absolute nail biter.
Yeah, so we're going to have the green-white checker. If you're new to the oval racing, if you're new to NASCAR, green, white checker means we get a lap of green, lap of white, and that's the end. So we're going to have 2 laps to go for this race. So it's a 2-lap shootout for that win, really. And this is where things are going to get very, very, very exciting. And you get to watch it all, of course, on those beautiful cameras from Track Cams for Gourmet, giving us those beautiful camera angles tonight, as always.
Absolutely. Lights are out on the pace car. Nerves are going to be sky high, I'm sure. I don't care whether you're Ed Foster or Jason Martin. These guys are pedigree racers, but I'm sure the nerves are up now.
Yeah, the old heart does start to race a little bit on these restarts. Even if you're lower down the field, you still feel that adrenaline pumping in. Everybody is going to want to try and win this one. Talladega is one of those tracks where everybody wants to get a win because it's an iconic track. It is one of those tracks that is grandiose and it is renowned for its brilliant NASCAR action. Of course, you also get the chance for the Cup win as well. Getting a win in the ANZCAR Abruzzi Cup is a fantastic thing as well because getting a win by your name is a really nice thing to have.
Absolutely, and any minute now the pace car is going to pull in, and these guys are going to be set to go again.
Yeah, they'll be getting ready to get going. It's going to be a little while, as I say. It's a long way to the start-finish line here, so if you need to make a quick coffee, go for it, but don't be too long. That pace car will be coming into the pit lane very, very shortly once we get through this corner. And then, of course, it is that long, long run up to the checkered line for the green-white checkered finish. So we'll have a lap of green, a lap of white, which is the final lap to go, of course, and then we get the final. So everybody is going to be right on it right now. All the teammates will be talking to each other, trying to work out their best strategy. I imagine Foster is going to want to try and get a bit of a jump here with his teammates, but he doesn't want to get too far ahead of them. He wants to make sure he's still got that draft in effect. They need to orchestrate this perfectly to get it working for them. They can't jump the start, of course. They have to go properly, and you have to make sure you're not passing before you get to getting to the line. So it's a tricky thing to do, and it does take a bit of skill, but Foster's dropped the pedal. He's got a bit of a launch, so Foster's managed to get a good launch there over the Mitch Motorsport cars. His teammates have all stuck with him, so that was a good start. So good start to this 2-lap shootout for Foster. The Mitch Motorsport boys are starting to drop back a little bit. Michael Skurlock's coming up behind him. He's going to want to try and get James Robbie into his tail gunning position to try and work their way up. They're going to have to try and drop to the low line to catch up to these guys now. They have pulled out a gap. This is going to be a little bit disadvantaged, though, because what's going to happen is Jason Martin's going to get that nice suction from the draft. He's going to get a little bit more speed coming out of the corners. So, as I say, you don't want to make too much of a gap because sometimes that can affect you. He's going to have Josh Micklemore pushing him along as hard as he can. Foster's going to have his teammates pushing him along as hard as he can. Imagine it like a train. These guys are working like a train, pushing each other, working with each other, trying to give them an extra bit of horsepower, what they can. White flag is out, of course. The hybrid racing simulation, white flag is out. Micklemore and Martin have gone to the high line now. They're going to try their best for it. We've got a car going round in the background, but no time for that. Foster is currently up there at the moment. Martin is getting a good run at the moment. He's trying to get that side draft working for him. Foster is moving out. You can see Joshua Carroll Walden and Jason Martin just touching doors slightly there. Foster's going into the final corner. As they come in here, Foster's getting a good push. Joshua Carroll Walden is pushing him as hard as he can. He is right on his bumper. Jason Hartigan is right on Joshua Carroll Walden's bumper as well. Martin has got a good run here, but Foster looks to have it. It's going to be a couple of moments before they come across the checkered line. And it's Foster taking the win. Foster taking the win over Jason Martin. Absolute nail-biter there. But it ended up being those 3 bullets in the gun. Worked out well for the JP Simshed team. I am sure JP can take a couple of heart pills and relax now. Great drive from Jason Martin and Josh Micklemore there, working their hardest. Things could have been so much different for them as well if only Danny G didn't get caught up in that pit lane incident. That third car being dropped for them really made a difference at the end. And Well, what a brilliant finish there.
Absolutely, I'm completely speechless. I'm going to let you take over things from here on in, Carl, and just sit here and just have a good suck on the old oxygen.
Take a good deep breath of that oxygen. The old fighter pilot's remedy for a hangover. Foster is going to do his burnouts. He's going to be very happy about that. So let's run us through that finishing order. So in first place we had Edward Foster, Jason Martin in second, Joshua Carroll Walden third, with Jason Hartigan fourth, Josh Micklemore in fifth, with Phil Otto in sixth. Brilliant run for Phil Otto there on those older tyres. He managed to get up to sixth place. Hamish Gallagher seventh, with Michael Skurlock in eighth. Ninth was James Robbie, with Stephen Williams in 10th. Roger Clark got 11th place, with Matt Hunter in 12th. Lachlan Urquio with Riley Curtis in 13th and 14th. Danny G 15th, with Matt Knight in 16th place. Good result for him on his first outing. Aidan Schultz 17th, was Tristan Koch in 18th. 19th was Norman Clark, with Ashley Davis 20th. 21st was Mirko Dortnak, with Bradley Allison in 22nd. Mick Wilson with Michael Shaw 23rd, 24th. 25th was Mitch Campbell, with 26th place going to Michael Schroeder. Raymond Yeager out earlier, unfortunately, possibly some connection issues with Adam Rosell. Nick Hulslander, as we saw earlier on in the race, having a good run, how pole position man, unfortunately taken out early, and Bill Hickey did not take the start. But what a absolute thrilling end to the race there. So what we will do is we will grab down our third place man, Joshua Carroll Walden. Joshua Carroll Walden, congratulations on that third place.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, yeah, that was a pretty good race, actually. Yeah, there were quite a few hairy moments, a few inexperienced guys that didn't really know what they were doing, meddling in the top end of the field, especially in that first stint. But yeah, got it off, and yeah, guys, that's a team victory right there. Myself, Jason Hardigan, we pushed Ed so hard in that green white checkered, and yeah, that's a team win right there.
Yeah, obviously I'll chat to Ed about that when he comes up here, because yeah, great teamwork from you guys. Obviously, big question for yourself. When that yellow flag, when that caution came out towards the end, what were your feelings?
Like, it's at first there was a little bit of disbelief, but then we composed ourselves pretty quickly and realized how good of a situation where we were in, because Martin only just passed me just before it, and yeah, if I had to start on the outside on the outside row, then yeah, the result might have been pretty different. So yeah, we were looking pretty set for a really good finish regardless, but yeah, it's Talladega, man. It always throws the curveball.
It does indeed. Luck is a big thing here. Obviously, you guys were looking to work with each other all through the race. You qualified. You had some good qualifying positions for all your teammates. You're down there in 8th place. At the start of the race for yourself, as you were saying, a little bit choppy at the start for you inexperienced drivers out there tonight.
Yeah, there was, man, and yeah, that's just part of the course. Talladega is a very popular circuit for rookies, and yeah, definitely give props for those having a go. But yeah, there were definitely a few close calls, and yeah, if we ran this race 2 or 3 more times, Chance would have finished at least one of those 40 laps down. So yeah, definitely hairy out there at times, and yeah, there was some 3 close to 4 wide moments in that race. But yeah, to come away with 2 cautions just speaks so highly of the ANZCAR League.
Yeah, there was some good drives out there tonight. Obviously, you're not in the chase this year, sadly, but you are fighting for the best of the rest this season. Are you trying your best to get that 12th place position, or are you not too worried about that?
Honestly, I'm really in the hunt for that P12, and I know that battle is very much in between myself and Raymond Yeager, and I know that Yeager had a pretty terrible night of things. So yeah, it's looking pretty good for best of the rest, and yeah, considering I have missed out on quite a few crucial races, and how is still in contention for the chase up until the last 2 races with 4 or 5 races less than everyone else. It's definitely a good feeling.
Yeah, it's been a good season so far for you. Obviously, heading to the Roval next, bit of a different track for you.
Yeah, the Roval is it's a sweat fest, man. Yeah, it's just a really, really hard road course. It's not like Watkins Glen or Sonoma at all. In quite a few ways, it is fairly close to a street circuit, especially through turns 1 and 2. With how close and tight those concrete walls are. I'm surprised ANZCAR hasn't had a big one through there yet, but I might have just jinxed it. So. Yeah, it's always a hard, tough race, and yeah, so easy to make a mistake. So yeah, I'm going to be taking the Roval 1 lap at a time.
No, good luck next time out. Before I let you go, of course, the usual shout out to sponsors and things like that, Mr. JCW.
Yep, cool. So yeah, shout out to our amazing sponsors, Abruzzi Australia, Goodyear Auto Care, Warana, Track Racer, VR Covers, Cars for Hope, Nationwide Tracking Systems, Dragon RC, and of course, Racing with Autism Australia. And shout out to Ed for a great win. Jason, mate, with great work there as well. And yeah, just a bit of bad luck, really, for Lachlan and Norman there. Those two, especially Norman, he was, running, basically right next to me on pit exit, so we could have had 4 cars up there, but alas, not meant to be, just a bit unlucky there. So, yeah, shout out to those guys as well.
No worries. So thank you so much, and I hope we get you back in the booth before the season is out.
Cheers. Thanks, Carl.
Joshua Carroll-Walton there for the JP Simshed team up in 3rd place. Next up, we will grab down Mr. Jason Martin, if he is there. Yeah, yeah, got him before I did. So Jason Martin for Mitch Motorsport. Congratulations on that 2nd place. Obviously, I imagine you would have liked 1 car further ahead, but you managed to stay right next to your championship rival at the moment, so things could have been a lot worse.
Oh, I'm real happy with that. Always worrying at this track. You never know what's going to happen. You might get caught up in a big wreck. So, yeah, absolutely stoked with 2nd.
Look, it was a brilliant race out there. You were one of the hardest guys racing out there as well. You were up there in the front most of the race. You had a really good strategy as well. Unfortunately, caught out with a bit of an accident for Danny G in the pit lane. It looked like you guys pitted early and were trying to run together to get a bit of a run on the other guys as they came through that green flag pit stop.
Yeah, I think it might have worked if we had all 3 cars, and I think we put a bit too much fuel in as well, so that slowed us down even more. But yeah, if we didn't do that, I think we could have taken the lead.
It was very, very close. We were remarking on it, and it was a little bit of bad luck. But Talladega can absolutely be one of those tracks where it is luck involved. And, well, it could have been much, much worse tonight for you. Obviously, 2nd place, really good. But this is going to keep you up there in the lead of the chase as well. How are you feeling for the next couple of rounds? Of course, we've got Charlotte Roval coming up next.
No.
Sorry to be the harbinger of bad news.
Oh man, you've got to be joking.
Oh, if only I was. Yes, so the Roval is next up for you. Obviously, road courses are not your speciality, but we have seen you improving over the years.
Yeah, I do okay at them now, but yeah, I don't think I've ever raced this one, so yeah, that'll be interesting.
It could be a very different night for you, a bit difficult. Obviously, running so far up at the field, of course, we're just trying to get across to the viewers just how hard it is out there, running side by side, lap for lap, running so close. From your perspective as a driver, how hard is it?
Oh, it's extremely tough. It's like 110% concentration the whole time. Even on the straights, you don't get a chance to relax because you got to try and stay close to try and get some air off them to try and get a bit more speed down the straight. So, you've got to try and get as close as possible and hope they don't push up high. So, it's nerve-wracking stuff.
It definitely looked it, and it was one heck of a race. The finishing as well, just so close to each other there, nothing between you guys at the end, but obviously just losing that extra car in that run to the final lap. It must have been heartbreaking when you saw that caution come out. Did you think maybe that's our chance lost, or did you think the green white checker could have been your chance of actually getting that first place?
When I saw 3 JP sim sheds all together on that restart, I thought we were in big trouble. So, I didn't want to see that yellow.
Yeah, it was kind of unfortunate for you because it was so close between you and JCW being swapping positions, really, and that could have been the difference maker in this race, of course. But Lady Luck can be fickle sometimes. But P2 tonight, an absolute brilliant finish.
Yeah, poor old Dan, though, not getting any luck at all, and I seem to be getting a fair bit at the moment.
Yeah, things have switched around from the start of the season, of course, because it seemed to be a bit of a bad start for yourself. Some poor luck there. And of course, Danny G, heart goes out to him because that was a really unfortunate incident. So before I let you go, of course, usual shout out to sponsors and all of those kind of things.
Danny G, bad luck, mate. Hopefully your luck can turn around. So, boys at Mitch Motorsports, got to thank Josh Micklemore for the big push at the end. ANZCAR for the series. BK Designs for our cars. And, of course, JP Simshed for the broadcast. Yeah, and thanks to the JP Simshed boys for racing clean at the end there.
No, thank you so much for racing them and just giving us such great racing out there as well. Obviously, we can't give good broadcasts if we don't get good racing, and you've given us some great racing this season. Hopefully we'll see you in the booth next time, but if not, we'll see you in the booth before the end of the season. Thank you so much, Jason.
Cheers, mate.
Jason Martin there for Mitch Motorsport. So next up, we will grab down a man that's getting used to coming up here for the victory 2 times in a row these past 2 broadcasts. Mr. Edward Foster for JP Simshed.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Ed. I imagine you're quite happy with that.
Yeah, fairly pleased. It's super speedways aren't my favourite thing, as we all know, but look, it was one of those that just sort of turned out for us.
I need oxygen.
It was nice to have a couple of my teammates in there behind us who were pushing us all the way and everything, and it just came down to a straight battle between ourselves and the Mitch boys. And we're lucky we had one extra car in that line and had the bottom line, and that's really what did it. Like we knew they were going to come for us at the end, and did they ever? They came so close, and really, really happy to be able to get it done.
Yeah, there was literally nothing between Jason Martin and Joshua Carroll Walden there. They finished identical race times, so very, very close there at the end between those two. But for yourself, you must be very happy with that one. Orchestrating that one with your teammates must have been a tricky thing to do when you're out there fighting, of course.
I'd love to claim it was some amazing skill. But when you sat out the front like that, you just basically hard down on the throttle and turning the wheel. It's really up to what's going on behind you as to whether or not you get the race or not. And it just so happened that I was fortunate enough to have those boys behind me to be able to push me home. If things had been slightly different when that last caution came out, we had the team cars sort of split across the 2 lanes, then who knows how it would have turned out. We don't know. So realistically, I was I'm up here getting the glory and everything, but it's really down to the boys who are behind me because they really dictate what happens. So thanks to them because we got fortunate enough to all get together and then made the most of it. So when you do have a little bit of fortune smile on you, you've got to make the most of it. You can't afford to waste opportunities like that, and thankfully we didn't. And luck just went our way again. And what can you say?
Yeah, one thing I want to ask you about, there are actually 2 things I want to ask you about. Just towards the end of the race, you had a bit of a twitch down to the inside. It looked like on one of the straights. Was that just a little mistake or just something happening there?
Josh had fallen a little way behind me. And as a result, I mean, the further behind that you actually fall, when you get back on the power and start closing that gap back up, the bigger speed overlap you've actually got when you get to them. So Josh has come up and tried to do, of course, what he should have done, which is give me a bump draft, but he actually hit me a little bit hard. So it just kind of unsettled the back of the car again. And, of course, you're in a position where you can't lift. So it was just one of those where I think the experience in the Grand National car was really quite handy because, you got to drive that thing like that all the time, just sort of coax it back onto the track, which is what I had to do there. So it was a bit of a sketchy moment, but, no harm, no foul.
Yeah, those Grand National cars definitely have helped a few people improve with things because they were very difficult to drive. Next question, of course, is Spidergate.
Oh, you heard about that, did you?
Yes. So obviously it was a polite spider dropping down in the caution for you, but that must have been a bit of a shock.
Yeah, it was. It was just under that first caution. We were just sort of rolling around. We just caught the pace car, and there were two cars ahead of me at that stage, and we were just talking about whether or not they were going to take the wave around or where they were, what their situation was. And the next thing they've heard me call out over the radio because this black, what I think was a whitetail, because we do have a few of them around here, landed straight on my lap. So I kind of did that frantic flick and a couple of curse words, and I don't know where it went. I didn't kill it, so it's still around here somewhere.
Well, let's hope your luck continues tonight and you don't get bitten by a white tip. Not a fun thing to have happen. But yeah, definitely made for an interesting race. But again, another victory for you. That's 2 in a row so far. Been a good couple of weeks for you as well. This is obviously going to help towards the end goal.
Well, I mean, like I've been saying, I think the entire way along, it's a huge gap, with the speed that Jason's got just about everywhere. He just doesn't have a bad race, does he? I mean, every time, even when I managed to get 3 teammates lined up on the bottom and at Talladega, he still manages to get through and get second, even if it's by the barest of margins. And last week he had a bit of a shocker and still managed to come through to third. So, I mean, when a guy's been that consistent, he's very, very hard to beat. Honestly, just taking every race as it comes, we're not really sort of thinking about that. I've said for quite a while that I think Jason's probably going to be a little bit too strong at the end. But, it's here to be won. So, we'd be doing ourselves a disservice if we didn't throw everything at it. And certainly as the points leader, I guess, everyone's sort of expecting Jason to win just because of who he is and what he's done in the past and everything else. And he's won, I think, 6 or 7 races so far this season. So realistically, if a guy's won 6 or 7 races, he's really expected to bring the championship home as well. So, certainly that, I guess, the expectation of everybody is that Martin's going to take it home. But, if we can make it hard for him, then we'll have a go at that and certainly do our best. But I certainly wouldn't be putting money on it.
No, well, obviously next week we've got a bit of a joker in the pack of the Charlotte Roval, so October the 1st for that one next Thursday. A bit of a joker, and obviously Jason, in his own words, is a bit weaker on those road tracks. How are you feeling for your chances there? Because that could be your opportunity this year.
I think Jason's doing himself a little bit of a disservice there, actually, if he's saying that, because granted, a few years ago, because I've been racing Jason for a number of years now, and a few years ago he was pretty average on the road courses, but he's obviously worked at it because, I mean, if you think back to Watkins Glen, he was quick there, he was quick at Sonoma. I mean, he's not as quick as the really, really fast guys on the road courses like Skurlock and Hardigan, for example. But he's right there behind him. So, I guess, if he's going to say, look, he's a little bit weaker there, yeah, by his standards, road courses, he's a little bit weaker, but that doesn't mean he's slow by any means. So, we're really going to have to, I mean, historically, I haven't been great in the road courses either. It's that, excuse me, the only type of track in ANZCAR I've never won on, road course. So it's certainly not my forte either. So, look, if we can take points away from there, fantastic. But, like I say, as with anything, I wouldn't be putting money on it.
No, it could be an interesting one, and of course, road course, very different track to Talladega. But before I let you finish up and head off, of course, the usual thing, shout out to sponsors and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, certainly. So it's really good actually to be able to give these guys a shout out 2 weeks in a row. So we've got Goodyear Auto Care Warana, which obviously provide the inspiration for my livery, but we've got so many others there as well. Track Racer, Nationwide Tracking Systems. We've got Cars for Hope, Abruzzi Raceware. We've just got sorry, I've had a mental blank. VR Cover as well, and yeah, so many great sponsors that run with us each and every week. So yeah, absolutely fantastic to be able to run with those guys. Huge thanks to the rest of the team. They're all just putting in. They just put in. They never have to be asked. They just put in these guys. So not just obviously right now, but in years to come, they're going to be really, really strong. So yeah, great working with them as well. So yeah, not too much else to say than that, apart from we'll go get some rest now and roll on next week.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Edward Foster, for the JP Simshed team. Hopefully we'll catch you up in the booth in the near future.
Thanks very much.
So, JP, the end of that race was a bit of a nail biter for you. Obviously, you really needed to take some breaths and obviously need a cup of tea and to calm down after that one. But I imagine you're pretty happy with that result, with 3 of your cars in the top 4 of that race, and most importantly, one of the cars up at the top.
Yeah, look, I think I'm going to have to have a Bex and a lie down after that. But yeah, absolutely. Look, I couldn't be happier. 2 weeks in a row to see a JP Simshed car at the pointy end of the field. The way that these guys go about their racing is absolutely phenomenal. The strength within that team is awesome, and to consider how young they are, and they only sort of came together at the beginning of the year to start doing this. They've really come along in leaps and bounds, and they are very, very strong together.
Yeah, definitely have come on leaps and bounds, and I imagine you're very proud of them. But as we say, brilliant job for them. Brilliant race at the end there as well. That was one heck of an nail biter, and it's going to be a close championship for sure. Jason Martin is a force of nature, but Edward Foster is carrying on his good luck and his winning streak from the Grand National Series, and 2 in a row has got to definitely boost his ego a bit, make him feel a bit better. That's 3 wins this season. Jason Martin, of course, having 6. But you've also got to watch out for Josh Micklemore and Hamish Gallagher as well. They're still sitting there or thereabouts, and they can come up quite quickly if you make some mistakes.
Yeah, 100%. And next week is really going to sort of throw the cat amongst the pigeons. That Charlotte Roval course is really going to sort a few things out. I think Jason's giving himself a little bit of a disservice. He's sort of playing down his skills on the road course a little bit too much. He's certainly going to be someone that that everyone's going to need to look out for. Jason Hardigan is always strong on the road courses. So too are Michael Skurlock, and look, you can't count out Ed Foster and JCW either.
It's going to be an interesting one for sure. So obviously coming up on the JP Simshed network.
So we've actually got quite a lot going on the JP Simshed network on Monday night. We've actually got a triple header on Monday night. We've got a few series that are running simultaneously. So Club Day Masters. So if you like watching the MX-5s racing around the tracks, we've got the Club Day Masters on a Monday night. We also have the Gentlemen's Sim Racing Club with the Intro to Wings. So the Mazda Pros, so the open wheel is there on a Monday night, and the GT3 series on a Monday night as well. On Tuesday night we have split 1 of the Nationwide Tracking Systems V8 Evolution Championship Series. Once again, we've just gone through 2 rounds. It's been an absolute nail biter. This week the boys are off to Le Mans to run the V8s around there, so that's going to be really interesting. On the Wednesday night, we have the Split 2 Drivers Lounge, so something a little different. We get a few drivers from the Monday night Split 2 series. We replay that, and they sit around sort of having a bit of a yarn and recounting their tales of woe or tales of victory, whichever way they went. On Thursday night, of course, always the ANZCAR Abruzzi Cup with this amazing cup racing. And then on Friday night, we're back with Gentlemen's Sim Racing Club for another triple header. So we've got production cars, so some more MX-5 racing, and then we've got the Stock Car Road Series. So I'm not sure what track they're going to be at this Friday night, and then after that there's the Stone Cold V8s.
Very, very busy week for you guys. It's going to be one heck of a schedule. Just coming up for ANZCAR events, we have got, when I look to my dates, when my brain starts clicking in, whereabouts are we? Sorry, my brain's just gone dead completely there. We've got there we go. Atlanta coming up for the Truck Series, for the ANZCAR Truck Series. A great way to enter yourself into the sport if you want to go over racing and want to give it a try. The trucks are the best way to get in. Brilliant racing there. Atlanta's going to be a hot one, so come out for that if you fancy giving it a try. Of course, we've also got the Wednesday night, sort of bit of a fun league, just a league just for having a little bit of fun in, enjoying ourselves, letting our hair down, and getting a bit of drive as well. And that will be at an announced location a little bit later on in the week. So remember to go to the ANZCAR page on Facebook and give that one a like to make sure you know what's going on there. So from now on, we'll give this one a bit of a wrap up. So as usual, thank you from myself, Carl Withy, and a big thank you for JP for doing all the camera work and the behind-scenes stuff.
Always
and
a pleasure.
Wish you a good night. Thank you so much. We'll wish you all a good night.
Sorry there, Carl, I didn't get that one quickly enough.
Oh, that's all good.